I thought it would be fun to show you some of my favorite pins and the stories behind them. If you've been watching my channel for a little bit, you know that I'm a big Disney pin collector, and I've got a lot of them. There's like 800 or 900 actual Disney pins, plus pins from other parks. Many of them I've picked up and purchased either online or at the parks, but I've also received a number of them as gifts from viewers. There's some really special ones here. So I thought it would be fun to just highlight a few of my favorite pins from my collection and tell you the stories behind them. So I'm gonna grab the camera, kind of flip it around, and that way I can give you a better look at the pins and hopefully be able to tell you some neat stories along the way. As I pick it up, you'll have to forgive me. The office is a little bit of a mess. You'll get a good look at the set here, and some of the other things. Now, of course, this set has all sorts of stuff in it. I mean, tons of it. And you may not even realize some of the really neat things. Not necessarily pins, but you can actually see my 2 work lanyards there. The Simba one was actually my very first lanyard when I was working at Disney. That's what I used to carry my ID card on. And then after a little bit, I replaced it with Pirate Mickey. And I've actually worn that when I was working teaching at our local school because their mascot is the Pirates. So why Simba? Well, when I was at my traditions class, one of the things they do is they have trivia questions. And they ask you, and if you get a trivia question right, then you get a little figure. And the figurine I got for answering a question correctly was a little baby Simba. And so I kind of adopted Simba very early on. I don't have the figure anymore. I gave it to my kids, and who knows what happened to it then. And then Pirate Mickey, well, hey, I just love pirates. But the pins, I've actually got several pins hiding in here, and up in here is a couple of my favorites. One you can see kind of hiding right there. That is actually my favorite pin from Disney Paris, and let me pull it out so you can get a little bit better look at it. It is just a really cool, big pin, and really love it. My one time to Disney Paris, and I wanted to get a nice pin to commemorate the visit. But another set of pins that you may not realize is here is actually in these boxes, and there's a whole set of them. I'm going to rotate around so I can get the light a little better. There's several of them hiding there, and these have actually been in every single one of my sets. They're Hatbox pins. These were sold to cast members at Company D, and you could only get them as cast members. There's 7 of them. They're all in different shaped boxes. And when you open up the box, which we will try and do here, you can see that there is a hat inside of it. In this case, it is Captain Hook. And there's the Mad Hatter hiding there. And there's one for Minnie and Steamboat Mickey and all sorts of stuff. It's just a really neat set that when I was working, I was like, oh, I gotta have those pins. Those I gotta have. So I picked those up along the way. You can see the Epcot set. I absolutely love that set of pins. That's one of my favorites. I picked that up when I was working at Epcot. And it was like, I just gotta have that to commemorate my time working World Showcase. Because I spent a lot of time at the World Showcase. A couple that were gifted to me. The Six Flags Great America. The Great America pins are special because I grew up at California's Great America as my home park. It was actually the very first theme park I went to. So it's a nice reminder of my childhood. And then the Alton Tower pins, hey, that's a goal. I will get there someday. That was also a gift from a viewer. And so, yeah, just all sorts of different little things hiding. There was one other set of pins in here that I really love, and it's kind of special, and that would be these hiding right here. These are from the year of A Million Dreams. This is my then in my first year and then through my second and third year at Walt Disney World. We had the year of A Million Dreams, which lasted 2 years, but they would give out these pins to guests. This was a set I was given when I was in the park with my kids. There were 2 different ones, but I still think this is one of the most amazing, best things Disney did, was just random freebies to bless the guests and say thank you for coming. And it's not something they would do now under the current leadership. But it was just such a really cool giveaway, and it's a reminder of what that year was as a cast member, and really what it meant as a cast member, that our goal, our job, was to make the visit the most amazing it could be for the guests, to go out of our way and do something special and unexpected for as many of them as we could. So that was really, it was just a neat time. Oh, and one other one I forgot, my name badge. And yes, you can actually see my service pin there. I should have had a 5-year service pin, but yeah, that's a long story. But you can see the service pin there. Do not give away their service pins. They don't, I won't. But it is still there. So the rest of my pins, I'm going to again kind of swing around, let you see a little bit of the mess. Hey, this is your chance to see behind the scenes. And my other pins are kind of hiding here, and you'll have to forgive the lighting because it's a little bit weird right now. I've got a couple of these pulled out, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But you can see how I organize my pins. They're all in binders, unless I have them unless I put them up somewhere else. I do have several up here. That box is actually pins that don't fit into binders, and so I've got a number of them there set aside. That little piece of cardboard is my scrappers. These are fakes. These are not real Disney pins. They are imitations and copies of them. So if you buy big lots on eBay, that's what you're going to get, is those things. And then my traders are actually in that little box right there. Ones that I have in these binders. So a couple here on the side. This one was actually given to me by the wonderful man, Alex, who treated us to a trip to Disneyland and Walt Disney World. So it's definitely special because it came from him. But this is not a cheap pin to get. You have to make a major donation to the Walt Disney Conservation Fund, and it's like $100 or $150 or something. And when you make that donation, then you get the pin. And he gave it to me, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So this is going to be one of the most expensive pins you are ever going to find at Disney. So yeah, very special that way. This was actually one I picked up in an online deal, and it is the Mickey's of Glendale Figment pin. And yeah, it's all glittery and pretty, and yeah, I love it. It's got to go in with the rest of my Figment pins here. Figment pins. Oh yes, I've got Figment pins. Look, Figments. And I've highlighted this series before, but this is probably my favorite series of any sort of pins. And it's all Figments from Around the World Showcase. These were actually cast lanyard trading pins. So the only way you could get these was trading with a cast member. And if you look close, you can find the hidden Mickeys on them there. They're all different costumes from the different countries. And that one in particular was a pain to get because Canadians like their pin. I was blessed. I actually had a viewer, I believe it was Brendan, sent me that pin to complete my collection because it was the only one I was short. But that is a wonderful collection. And when I left Disney, I had like 9 of them. And I was only short a couple and picked them up. But that Canada pin took me forever. And that was thanks to a viewer. And then you can kind of see I've got all sorts of other pins in here. Chippendales and Donalds. I do collect. They are special simply because they were some of my first characters I worked with. The very first character I ever worked with at Walt Disney World was Donald. And of course, he's a bit of a troublemaker. And then right after him was Chippendale. And had more fun with them and watching them cause a ruckus and everything. So those definitely stand out as favorites. And then there is all sorts of others in here in Trader Series. A couple that I picked up, there were also really neat ones. We're in here. Okay, this is all my cast pins. These are mostly ones I purchased while working as a cast member. This one I have told the story before, so look for my other pin videos if you want to know about my most special pin. That's a neat story on that one. Then a couple of these. This pin right here, the only way you could get it was to take the tour of Magic Kingdom as a brand new cast member. That's the only way you got that pin. So that is my tour pin from Magic Kingdom. These other two on either side of it are actually tour pins that anybody can take when they're offered, but I got to take them as a cast member as a special bonus. So they're really nice special pins. You got the Backstage Magic, which will take you backstage, and then the Undiscovered Future World. So if you saw my Epcot trivia video, that is where a lot of the things I mentioned come from, was actually on that tour. And then a trainer pin. I was not a trainer. I was offered the position a couple times and said no because I wanted to stay in the parks with the guests. But it is there kind of as a reminder of what I could have been if I'd wanted to. There are also a couple other pins in here that I really love. This series is one of my favorites. They actually issued these when I was working there. The safety pins, I think, are some of the most creative ones. And oh, I worked hard to try to get these. I'm still missing a couple of them. But they highlight different safety issues in the parks and the different things that go along with them. And I just love the fact they used Timon and Pumbaa to do this. It's such a neat set of pins, and you can kind of get a look. And these, as I recall, you had to trade for as well. I don't believe you could actually buy them. I think they were only available for trade. The rest of this book is all cast pins. And again, most of these were ones that I purchased when I was working there. So all these holidays, these are holidays that I worked, and I purchased the pin as a reminder of working on that holiday. So these are all actually my pins, with a couple exceptions. This one is actually one I picked up later. For the Candlelight Processional, for cast members singing in it, I actually did not sing in it. I tried, and I didn't have the voice or the time. But just all different cast member pins that I had purchased over the years. There are a couple others. Let's see here. There are a couple others in this other book that I want to show you real quick. Now, I am a very nervous pin trader. I am worried about getting scammed because I have been scammed, as my computer turns back on. But one of the very first trades I did with other people that I felt good about was for these two pins. On our trip to Disneyland a few years back, I took along some pins that had actually been given to me from a friend of mine. His mother had died and passed on a collection of pins to him, and I picked those up from him. I made a very nice exchange. But there were a couple I didn't want, and so I had taken them along on this trip and went to a pin trading event that was there. Not an event, just some traders hanging around outside the park, but this gentleman had these two pins, and I was like, oh my goodness, those are the most amazing pins I have seen. They're just gorgeous. And he made a very nice trade with me. I think he got, a good deal for it out of him as well, but very proud of those pins. There's others in the series I don't know if I'll ever get because they are not cheap to try to purchase. But I do absolutely love those pins. I think they're beautiful. Try and give you a little bit better look. You can see the stained glass kind of look to them. Just really cool. So there's a little look at some of my pins, some of my favorites, a few of the stories behind them. Like I said, there's 900 there, and almost all of them have a story. So it's kind of hard to narrow it down, but those are just some of the really neat ones that I have. So do you enjoy Disney pins? Do you have some stories behind yours? I'd love to hear them. Are there certain ones you'd like to hear about? Let me know as well. Be sure to share it in the comments below. Thank you so much for hitting that like button, sharing, and subscribing. Let's hit that 30,000 subscriber mark. And thank you as well to my patrons, my financial members, and to everybody who has contributed to this collection one way or the other. I am so blessed. It's such a neat thing. And it's fun sometimes to just flip through and look at the pins and remember the stories. So thank you so incredibly much for watching as well. God bless. But I've also received a number of them from viewers and Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to know about contact information, fan pages, merchandise, and more, please be sure to check the description below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to know when I have new ones, well, make sure you hit that subscribe button right up there. And if you want to see another one of my videos, well, I've got a great one for you right here. And a huge thank you to these wonderful people here who support me on Patreon and with YouTube memberships. They get behind the scenes information, special perks, and more. If you'd like to know more about that, well, make sure you check that button right there. Thank you so much.